Good afternoon, slaves. It's like a regular fall day here. 60s. Mostly cloudy. Not partly cloudy. Mostly cloudy. You know, normal Portland weather, which produced a rainforest at one time in Oregon that stretched from Tillamook to Astoria before Ted's grandfather chose to cut it down and make millions and pass it down to Ted so he could be the mayor and put up his monument to greed or tribute to erectile dysfunction because he's gay and in the closet. I don't care that he's gay, I just care that he's in the closet. And the only time this town got cleaned up was Gay Pride weekend. There's a 1.5 block camp that's a block from where I live that they had the street blocked with double parked vehicles dropping off or picking up drugs or doing both. This was at midnight. I was trying to get to 7-Eleven. I had a desire for cookies and fresh spring water and bananas, which I purchased. And so I kind of yelled at them, just my usual yell, just the word, "Hey!" like that, you know, to get out of the way. And they're like all threatening and menacing and posturing. So if I wind up dead, it's because I live just a little over a block from a block and a half. And these are some bad looking dudes. They're not from Portland. Trust me, I can tell. These are dudes that, you know, they moved out here from Baltimore, Philadelphia, DC, New York City. They were told this is the promised land where I have a little bird as an audience. I swear to God. He's a newbie too, like just left the nest. You can tell because they have long eyebrows like an old man. They're really cute. He's just staring at me. Hey, buddy. So, you know, they move out here because they're told it's the promised land. You can live in a tent and deal drugs and cache weapons, and there's no consequences. You might get a ticket, but actually the police never show up there. And the irony is they're occupying the area that surrounds a former preschool, like for as long as I can remember, before it shut down during this pandemic. And across the street is a playground. Almost the whole block is a playground, very close to it. And the only children at play there anymore are meth heads swinging on the swings. This little birdie's so cute. So that's where I live. Where do you live? This is what Ted hath wrought, along with Debra and Kate, the Democratic triumvirate. Along with that, rent prices are just skyrocketing out of control. And people say, well, it's just the economy. Well, they're the ones that created this economy with their policies and practices. And of course, let's not forget the Orwellian titled rent control, which is actually guaranteed profit control for international property management cartels. That's what's moved in here and taken over management of properties here in Portland. They're international. They own hundreds, 500, 1,000 properties around the world. And of course, they want to own properties here because the law, guaranteed profit control, mislabeled rent control. First 15 years a building is erected, No restraints whatsoever on how much they raise the rent. 15 years. After that, oh my gosh, they can only raise the rent 7.5%. If you know anything about math, and very few people do these days, that's called a geometric progression. In finances, that's called interest compounded. So it's 7.5 on top of times 7.5 times 7.5 times 7.5. Basically, I believe what it works out to is the cost of your rent will double. Just following the guidelines of rent control, the cost of your rent can legally double in 7 years. That's why there's so many people living on the streets. And now that everything's switched to the suburbs, Gresham, outside the city limits, Beaverton, those places are going to fill up too. And of course, it's happening statewide as well. People are really getting hit hard in Ashland. Rents are just skyrocketing. Just a few years ago, I thought about moving there. I didn't because of smoke. And I have COPD, and I'm really sensitive to forest fire smoke or any kind of smoke. But I have a friend who lives there, and except for living with someone else, an apartment for a person who works, 40 hours a week, as she does at Bi-Mart, and makes, a decent lower middle class wage. An apartment is out of reach in Ashland now. And this has happened just in the wake of our Democratic-controlled legislature following the lead of Kate Brown and passing her Orwellian-titled rent control, which is actually guaranteed profit control for global property management cartels. What a filthy mess this whole thing has become. And it's spiraling out of control. The only buildings getting erected in Portland are condominiums and luxury elite executive style apartments for the wealthy. And they're going up like Pop-Tarts. And then there's this god-awful thing. Yeah. Ted's monument to greed. I wonder how much his how much his profits on his holdings as a multi-millionaire have gone up in the 6 years since he took office. Does anyone in a position of, journalistic publishing power want to ask that question? And, same for Nancy. Fucking Nancy. How much has her wealth increased in the last 6 years? Last 3 terms in office. 4 years fighting the good fight against Trump, and then I'll retire. That woman will retire on a gurney. Anyhow.